Higher order construct, or we call it hierarchical component modeling. In Malaysia, we normally call it as second order, but you can also go to third order, we can go to fourth order and fifth order. There are also some papers written on third order factors, but second order factor, you're already pushing the abstractness. So here, in this slides, we have second order factor, which is this one. So we want to measure a variable called second order. We measure the variable with three first order dimensions. Okay, first order dimension. So if we see in terms of abstractness, here it is very concrete. As you go to the first order and the second order, the level of abstraction increases. Okay, level of abstraction increases. This is one of the issues raised by many reviewers when you start going into second order modeling. Okay, second order modeling. And one of the reasons why we do second order model is given in the book by Hare in 2014. One of the reasons why we do second order construct in research is to reduce the number of relationships in the structural model, making the PLS path model more parsimonious and easier to grasp. That's the reason why we do second order. So here what will happen is these three dimensions are actually measurement for this variable called second order. Okay, in some studies they look at the first order dimension directly, but in the second order we are only interested in this second order variable that we are interested in. So this is the term called parsimony comes from this depiction. Let me show you. Here we have three independent variables, three mediator, and three dependent variables. So we have this kind of model. From independent to mediator, we have 9 hypotheses. From mediator to the dependent variable, we have another 9 hypotheses. Combination is there.
Kamu taruh di mana itu ya? Yang pertanyaan Bu Ano, di form. Bab 2 atau bab 3? Coba kalau yang itu tadi, yang saya kira. Bagian mana bab 3? Di sampel. Kalau sampel itu saya tambahkan bab 3 untuk kelompok. Itu udah betul kelompok. Ada juga nanti 14. Tapi ini khusus untuk bahwa cost reduksi hanya dipakai untuk kelompok itu. Di situ juga ya, di sampel digabung ya. Iya, bahwa cost leadership berlaku untuk semua kelompok. Nah, karena itu hanya bicara kelompok, tidak bicara variabel di situ. Ini cuma ditambah penjelasan aja. Oh, nak bergeser di halamannya ya. Ah, bergeser. Saya minum apaan lo yuk? Jangan minum teh dulu. Minum aja itu Yun, nggak apa-apa kalau sudah lewat 10 menit. Yun, Yun, minum aja itu Pak kalau lewat 10 menit nggak apa-apa. Yun, minum aja obatmu. Yun, yun. Sudah, perayaan itu yang sudah kau minum obat belum itu? Vitamin C sudah. Ini juga. Apa minum sudah? Sudah, ini itu vitamin C untuk buat itu beta itu. Ada tujuh.
That's how you develop your hypothesis, two hypotheses. Yeah. But if you want to say that your focus is on this variable, to solve this problem, we need this variable plus this variable. Then only your center variable becomes a mediator. So this is where the relationship becomes two components, direct and indirect effect. Okay, direct and indirect effect. Okay. The other thing you need to also understand is the terms used in the literature. There's a term called total effect. There's a term called direct effect. There's a term called indirect effect. Okay, those all you must understand them clearly. Yeah. So later when we look at the mediation model, I will tell you how it is decomposed. Okay, decomposed. Yeah? So here we have a paper published in a journal called MIS Quarterly by Bock et al. This is a 2005 paper which is very highly cited in an area called knowledge sharing. Okay, knowledge sharing. And at that time, Bock was in NUS. Okay, so you see some, these names are all Korean names, right? But Bock was working in NUS, and if you want to know why they managed this journal was because of this guy. Okay, this guy called Robert Zemuth is like a god in an area called information system, information technology. So if you connect with him, then you can, you should be able to publish in some of the top journals in the world. Robert Zemuth. Robert Zemuth. Okay. In this model, you see we have a second order factor. We just discussed about second order, right? So here we have a second order, which is formative, right? Arrow going in, formative. We have a second order, which is reflective. Okay. And normally they use a darker color line to say that this is second order. These are all first order. The single lines are all first order. This is second order. So from this variable to this variable to this variable, there is a possible mediation, right? Here, and then here, we have this, we have this. All this can be mediation. But in this paper, they did not test a single mediation and published in like the top journals in the world. Ini tahap Dewa, Devi lah. Okay. And they did not test a single mediation. And we have examiners who are saying, hello, you have a middle variable, it's always mediator. That's not true. That's one of the things I find quite strange with many examiners. They argue based on their understanding or their ignorance. Okay, so you see many papers published in like the top journals. Although we have 3 variables in a row, they did not test any mediation. So that is also possible. It depends on your objective of your study. Okay, objectives of your study. Yeah. Okay. For mediation, I would strongly recommend you to read this paper written by McKinnon et al. In 2012. McKinnon et al. McKinnon has been writing from the time Barron and Kenny were writing. They're actually from the same era. But unfortunately, many people like to cite the paper by Barron and Kenny instead of McKinnon et al. But McKinnon's paper in 2012 is really interesting. Try reading it. And one of the things he raised is this, which is very important, and it is the crux of mediation analysis. The conceptualization of a mediation analysis requires forethought about the relationship between the variables of interest and the theoretical meaning behind those relationships. The key word is theoretical meaning. Many people put mediator in between independent-dependent. If you ask them, why did you put the mediator? Because my beloved supervisor suggested, or my beloved examiner suggested. That is the answer you get, which is really very scholarly, right? Okay, I find that quite strange. it is not because you have to put a variable in between your independent and mediator. Independent and dependent, it becomes a mediator. There's a logical argument. You must also have a theoretical guidance for developing a mediation model. Okay, a mediation model. This is the keyword from this paper by McKinnon et al. Okay, McKinnon et al. So the paper that everybody cites, including me, is this paper by Barron and Kenny, 1986, which currently has 105 or 106,000 citations. The citation is still increasing. So this is Ruben Barron. This is David Kenny. So one of the reasons why this paper was published is because of Ruben Barron. Ruben Barron was younger at that time. He needed tenureship. In the US, to get tenureship, you must publish in like the top journal in your area. And their area is actually psychology, not business, psychology. This paper was rejected in 3 different journals before the 4th journal accepted that. So the 3 journals that have rejected the paper, the editors would have been cursing themselves because they lost 100,000 citations because of the decision they made to reject the paper. Okay? So what this paper says is, you should read this paper really, really carefully. Very, very good paper, which gives you an idea why mediations are needed, why moderations are needed. Okay, so in this paper, Warren Kenny wrote this. Mediator variable is a generative mechanism through which the focal independent variable is able to influence the dependent variable of interest. And mediation is best done in the case of a strong relation between the predictor and the criterion variable. So for those who are planning to develop a mediation model, first you must have literature linking your independent to the dependent. And this linkage must be strong or consistent, independent and dependent. Then only you argue that the relationship between independent and dependent, there is something happening in between, which is called the mechanism that links your independent variable to the dependent variable. So the idea is similar to the middleman theory. You can go directly to the third person, but if you have a middleman, things get done faster. So the middleman is the mechanism that links you to the person you want to get things done. So that is the basic idea of a mediation model. And this is how you visualize your mediator. So here we have 2 models here. The first one is your independent to dependent variable, right? Independent to dependent variable, which is denoted by C. This is called the total effect. The total effect, C. Okay, this total effect will be decomposed into 2 components, which is called the direct effect, C prime, direct effect, and the indirect effect, which is A times B. So A times B is your indirect effect, and C prime is the direct effect. So you should not be confused about the term total effect and direct effect. Okay, direct effect is when you have a mediator. The total effect is now decomposed into direct and indirect. Okay, direct and indirect. Okay. So when we do mediation, we have independent variable, the mediator variable, and the dependent variable. Okay. Most of the time, we have been using this method called Barron and Kenny 4-step approach. What is Barron and Kenny 4-step approach is, first model is your independent variable. You regress it against your dependent variable, which is called the total effect. Okay, the total effect. If this effect is not significant, that's the end of your PhD. Okay? That was the condition. No? Independent to dependent, not significant, you stop. Independent to mediator, this is step number 2. Not significant, you also have to stop there. Okay? Then we have step number 3, mediator to dependent, not significant, you have to also stop here. Okay? And finally, we will have the independent and mediator regress directly, and we compare step number 1 and step number 4 to decide whether we have full mediation or partial mediation. Okay, that's what we have been doing for a very, very long time. Huh? But what happened with this model is now many reviewers arguing this analysis has very low power, very low power. Why? Because when we drew the model, we have one model. Okay, we have one model. But when we test the model, we test model number 1, model number 2, model number 3, model number 4. We are actually testing 4 different models. So when we test many, many times, you run into a problem called type 1 error. That means you will find there's some mediation when there is no mediation. So this 4-step approach has already been criticized. You should stop looking at this analysis. Okay, no longer acceptable. Okay, in good journals. What is the solution? For a while, we were using this Sobel test, which is online. This is also no longer acceptable because when we do Sobel test, we are assuming the indirect effect is normally distributed. Okay, so I wrote one paper in 2011 using this calculator and got published in an ISI journal. But when I went to the workshop in Hamburg, they told me that this is actually not acceptable. So I stopped using this online calculator. So what is the current method? This is the current method. The method introduced by Fritcher and Hayes in 2004 to test simple mediation, one independent, one mediator, one dependent. And then in 2008, they came out with the multiple mediation testing procedure. So here they showed clearly, when you take your indirect effect, which is A times B, the relationship is not normal. Okay, this is your normal distribution, broken line. This is your mediation indirect effect, which is not normal. So since the data is not normal, we will have to do bootstrapping. This is where they came out with the bootstrapping the indirect effect. So this is the method now used in SPSS. This is the method used in Smart PLS. This is also the same method used in AMOS and M+. All the software have now started to use this method called bootstrapping the indirect effect. Okay. So in the book by, this is the 2009 paper written by Barron and Kenny, about Barron and Kenny. So Andrew Hayes wrote another paper in 2009. The 2004 and 2008 paper, they were very mathematical. So many people did not understand what they were writing about. So in 2009, he wrote a more simpler paper without all the mathematics. And the title was Beyond Barron and Kenny, Statistical Mediation Analysis in the New Millennium. So if you are a Barron and Kenny fan, suddenly you see a title Beyond Barron and Kenny, you will be sure to read the paper, correct? Okay, so that's where title makes a difference. If you write the title, which is interesting. So in 2010, another guy called Zhao et al., they wrote another paper criticizing the method by Barron and Kenny. This is where the title was Reconsidering Barron and Kenny, Myths and Truths about Mediation Analysis. So in this paper, they actually argued you don't have to have a significant relationship between your independent and dependent before you test for mediation. So the step 1 is no longer important, already out. So this is a paper in 2010. Okay. Okay. The other issue we have is there are also many supervisors who like to use Barron and Kenny because they were trained with Barron and Kenny. Even until now, they love Baron and Kenny. I actually had lunch with Kenny, so I also like him a lot. But unfortunately, the analysis is no longer acceptable. This is the frequently asked question in Andrew Hayes' website. He has a frequently asked question. Everybody writes to him, should I use Baron and Kenny? So he said, instead of I replying to your email, I write a frequently asked question number 38. Frequently asked question number 39 on his website. So this is the question he's answering. My advisor tells me I should use Baron and Kenny for assessing mediation, but my reading of the literature tells me this isn't recommended these days. What should I do? And his advice straightforward. You have counted on an advisor for guidance and support. Now return the favor. All but the most stubborn of advisors are open to new ideas, and many are too busy or just don't care enough to stay informed on recent developments. Give him or her a copy of the relevant literature or a copy of my book and make your case. Try my Beyond Baron and Kenny paper for a start. This is quite good advice. So if you are quite afraid of your supervisor, what you can do is you make a copy of this paper, Beyond Baron and Kenny, slip it under the door and run away. So hopefully your supervisor will pick up and read the paper. You have done your part, right? You've given him a copy. You don't have a copy. So this is what you should be doing to your supervisors. Okay, the other issue we had in Baron and Kenny era was your independent variable to mediator must be significant. Your mediator to dependent variable must be significant before you have mediation. That was the condition. So when I went to Philadelphia in 2013, Dr. Joshua was following me. He went together with me for this workshop. He was a photographer. So during lunch, I actually drew independent, mediator, and dependent, and asked Andrew Hayes, should A to B, X to Y significant, M to Y, X to M significant, M to Y significant before I test mediation? And his answer was really classic. He said, this is so Baron and Kenny. Okay? So he said, don't follow Baron and Kenny. It's not required anymore. In many papers now, we don't have a requirement independent to mediator significant, mediator to dependent significant before we can test. Okay? Okay. So that was 2013. Okay. So I was a student at that time. And when you, these are some of my experience. When I went to the workshop with David Kenny, the awe is different. You see like a legend in front of you. Dia punya perasaan tu lain. And this guy called Andrew Hayes, he can really command your attention. When he speaks, he's really fiery. Okay, tak macam professor di Malaysia lah. Kita ni kurang sikit in terms of the command. When they talk, you will follow them around the room, and they don't sit and talk. They actually walk around in the class. Okay, and you will follow them. That is how they can keep your attention during a 5-day workshop. This is a 5-day workshop. Every day we were writing syntax. Okay, every day we were writing syntax. So that is the kind of workshop that you should try attending and see. And this is a question about full and partial mediation. I hope you are still not doing this anymore. I've stopped doing this maybe about 10 years already. Okay. Okay, this full and complete or partial mediation is outdated 20th century concept that have no place in 21st century mediation analysis. This is how strongly worded Andrew Hayes' statement is about full and partial mediation. So stop using them. You should not be looking at them anymore. So for testing mediation in Smart PLS, it is now quite straightforward because they have already introduced a method called testing the indirect effect, which is specific indirect effect. Specific indirect effect. So we will run their model like this. If you still want to draw an arrow from independent to dependent, you can still do that. Okay? But I normally don't draw that. I only draw from here to here, and the third one, which is the mediation. Which is the mediation. The other thing is when we write hypothesis for mediation, we have all been trained to write hypothesis which is H1. Betul, Dr. Yus? Okay. But we can also write hypothesis which is like this. Huh? This is a two-tailed hypothesis. We call them non-directional hypothesis. This is a one-tailed hypothesis, which is directional hypothesis. So you can refer to this paper written by Roldan and a group of researchers from Spain. And this is a paper published in a journal called Decision Scientist. Accepted in 2019. I think it has still not come online in 2021. It's still article in press. That's how long it takes from acceptance to getting online. So this is how you can write. Job satisfaction positively mediates the relationship between attitude towards co-workers and organizational commitment. Okay, I've also started doing this kind of hypothesis. Since we already know your independent to mediator is positive, mediator to dependent is also positive. Positive times positive should be positive. So start looking at papers like this to write your hypothesis. No need to follow this norm. This is like what we have been doing for a long time. Start looking at this. So for reporting, there's no more step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Now it's just reporting the indirect effect, whether it's significant or not. And we also look at the bootstrap confidence interval, lower limit and upper limit. We don't have a 0. That's it. Okay. Those are the requirements for mediation currently. Okay. In the paper by Zhao et al., they also talk about this complementary and competitive mediation. I don't like to do this, but just in case your reviewer asks you to do that, you can follow this flow chart to decide whether you have competitive mediation or complementary mediation. Okay. Okay. The other paper I would strongly recommend you to read is this paper written by Rung Tusenatam in 2014 in the journal called Journal of Operation Management. They have now divided the analysis into 2 parts. You can test mediation using segmentation. That is what we have been doing. Independent to mediator, mediator to dependent, and then the mediation. But you can also follow the second one, which is transmittal. You just test the mediation. No need to test independent to mediator, mediator to dependent, no need to test. Just test the mediation. This is good for those who have multiple independent, multiple mediator. That kind of model, maybe you want to follow the second strategy. Other than that, most of us will follow the segmentation. Independent to mediator, mediator to dependent, and then the mediation. For analysis method, also they have divided them into implicit and explicit. So for testing mediation, we have 7 different ways of testing mediation. 2 of them are implicit. What is meant by implicit is you don't get p-value or t-value. Okay. Barron and Kenny method and James Mullight and Brett method is implicit. Sobel test, distribution of product method, bootstrapping, Monte Carlo simulation, and Bayesian. These 5 are all explicit testing. Okay, explicit testing. So we have 7 different ways of testing. But in Malaysia, we only know 2, which is Barron and Kenny for a long time. Now we have changed to bootstrapping. Okay, ada banyak lagi ya. You can look at them. So this paper talks about the strength and weaknesses of each paper, and you can read how to apply them. They have a step-by-step application of each of them, so you can decide which one will be more suitable for the kind of relationship you have. Yeah. Okay. Any question? On mediation,
Prof, in mediation, tak wajib kan test independent to dependent variable, is it?
Tak perlu. Dulu adalah, sekarang tak perlu.
Prof.
Yeah.
Which means even the initial studies, Takesa the relationship between IV and DV from the previous study, Takesa, they're significant or not significant, we still can include mediator based on the recent literature, is it?
Development is still the same. What they are saying is you don't need to test the independent to dependent.
Okay.
The independent to dependent don't have to be significant, but when you want to develop a model for mediation, there must be consistent literature between your independent and dependent. That's the first condition for developing the model.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Prof.
Only for testing, okay? Only for testing. Okay, we will take a short 15-minute break, Dr. Yus, untuk kopi ke apa, and then 4 o'clock we will start the hands-on.
Okay, Prof. Online coffee.
Yeah.
kita akan lihat bagaimana apakah substansi hadis itu bertentangan dengan syariat. Kalau bertentangan, itu nanti dilakukan dan dilakukan. Tapi kalau tidak bertentangan, maka ambil langkah yang tetap jalan, tapi isi substansinya kita isi dengan yang tidak bertentangan dengan syariat. Terima kasih banyak. Silakan dulu. Kita akan ngobrol-ngobrol nih. Nanti kalau dikatakan bahwa hantu itu tadi kan tidak lengkap, ada hal yang menjadi fundamental seperti masalah Allah itu akan melihat Tuhan dan juga tentang Nabi yang terakhir itu adalah sunnah di dalam sebenarnya. Nah, bagaimana dengan orang yang punya pendapat bahwa dalam Islam itu dulu ada konflik karena Al-Quran turunnya satu-satu gitu, karena ayat itu turun. Kalau sekarang Al-Quran sudah selesai, sudah lengkap. Ya akhirnya jadi satu kebenaran bahwa ya harus begitu. Dan kalau ada soal Muhammad ya sudah nggak boleh minum sama lagi. Antum sudah minum sama ya salah. Tinggal masalah. Bagaimana? Ini contohnya seperti satu sisi ada benarnya. Ya, sekali lagi dari sisi norma acaranya memang sudah hilang. Ya, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaikum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-Islam madina. Kita di surah Al-Maidah ayat 3 itu. Hari ini telah kusempurnakan, ya kan? Itu agamamu. Dan aku juga Islam menjadi agama kamu. Telah cukupkan nikmat dan seterusnya. Nah, artinya apa? Artinya dari sisi acaranya terlibat dan tidak terlebih. Tapi prosesnya begitu. Sudah hilang. Ya, karena kemudian kita bertambah. Kita sudah selesai. Dengan ditutupnya kenabian utusan Rasulullah, maka tidak akan ada lagi nabi baru yang membawa ajaran baru yang merevisi ajaran Rasulullah. Nah, cuma pertanyaannya, bagaimana cara menentukan ajaran yang sudah final ini? Nah, itu apakah Anda menggunakan pendekatan hitam putih pokoknya? Ya, pokoknya ini haram, pokoknya ini haram. Ya, nah, apakah kemudian itu? Kalau mau begitu, monggo. Kami tidak akan. Pasti akan mau. Karena Anda bisa dengan manusia, tidak dengan batin. Nah, kalau manusia, kita akan belajar pada sosok makhluk manusia itu yang aneka macam otaknya. Gitu kan? Maka itulah yang dibentuk oleh para ulama. Rasulullah sendiri, Rasulullah sendiri itu sudah tak bijaksana. Maka betul bahwa dari sisi norma, ajaran, maupun hadis tidak sudah selesai. Tidak mungkin sama lagi. Tapi dalam penyampaian ajaran yang tidak itu, lagi-lagi kita rujuk Al-Quran harus menyampaikan dengan diri. Sama dengan siapa kita bicara. Kalau dengan orang yang sudah memahami agama, Allah hitam putih. Nah, tapi kalau ini namanya ya, ini bicara Islam, atau sudah Islam, tapi nggak pernah belajar ya, Islam ada saya jelas. Oke, kalau itu kira-kira apa yang bisa kita simpulkan? Yang kedua, apa yang harus kita lakukan untuk bisa terhindar dari debat budu dan juga kasus yang pertama, ajaran agama yang sudah mudah ini kelompok satu dan satu ini istiqomah mengatakan tidak penting itu akan penting karena kalau ajaran yang sudah mudah ini kita kerjakan semua aspeknya pun kita sudah lelah, kita pun sudah tidak berfungsi sebetulnya mengerjakan semua petunjuk agama termasuk yang sunnah-sunnah yang misalkan baik sekali kita lihat itu pun sudah tidak akan maka
Prof can ask question. I think he's not in yet. Sedang baca kopi, I think. Yeah, sure, Prof. Use. Prof. Juice, can I ask you about the, like, I look at the book Prof. Ramaya mentioned, he mentioned you do the refractive assessment, then you can do the formative assessment. Means, if let's say with the data, before we do the mediation, we can do the refractive, we can do the formative, or we have to choose one of it. That part I'm not sure actually. Okay, I think the best person to ask maybe Prof. Ramaya. Nanti I want this jawapan ajaran sesat nanti. Because chapter 7 and chapter 8 got assessment on refractive, got assessment on formative, but which one we need to choose? I am not sure. Actually, it depends, kan? So one thing is based on literature is a must, and then but normally number 2 is quite normal practice, right? Formative or reflective. Reflective, reflective, formative. Reflective formative
Second
is
order.
the latest
Second
trend,
order.
nah?
Second order.
Yes.
Second order supposed to be reflective formative.
Second order. For the first order, we no need to bother refractive, right? Or
Depends on the measurement. So I can show you a paper which is this. So first order also can be formative. Not nanti the ajaran sesat pula. Yeah. So if you look at this paper, okay. This is the paper. Peng and Lai. Okay. Okay. This paper by Peng and Lai, number 61. So you can see that in an area called supply chain management. For a long time, we have been measuring this variable as reflective. Let me see here. Operational performance. This is first order, right? This is first order. Operational performance got 4 items, and these 4 items are conceptualized as formative. Okay, because the 4 items are this. I will show you. These are the 4 items to measure operational performance. Unit cost, conformance, which is actually flexibility, conformance to product specification, on-time delivery performance, flexibility to change. There are 4 different things in operation performance. So that is why in this paper, in Journal of Operation Management, they use the 4 items as formative. Although it's first order, they tak ada dimension, right? Okay, it's still formative. Okay, so you have to decide based on your items. If you delete the item, does the meaning change? If the meaning changes, you are no longer in reflective. You are supposed to be informative. You're supposed to be informative. Okay. Okay, so next we will run a model which is like this. Okay, here we have 2 independent variables, 1 mediator and 1 dependent variable. Okay, 2 independent, 1 mediator and 1 dependent variable. So when we run model like this, we can test two mediation. Okay, first mediation is from here to here, and the second one is from here to here. So when we run this kind of model, the assessment is still the same. Since they are all reflective, you have to check your AVE, you have to check your CR, you have to check your discriminant validity before we test the indirect effect. So now, in the first model that we tested here, which is UMT1, if you see your model called UMT1, UMT2, let me see, UMT2. Okay, in the model called UMT2, we have only independent dependent. So if you run the model, you will not get indirect effect. Although the software will tell you indirect effects, if you see the indirect effect is empty because you don't have independent mediator and dependent. Okay. In this model that we want to test, we have two independent variable, one mediator variable, one dependent variable. So in this model, we will have two mediation we want to test. Okay. So we will start a new project, UMT4. UMT4, and your data file is mediation. Attach the data file called mediation. So we have two independent, one mediator and one dependent. So data file is mediation. Open the file, and these are the variables. So we will take authentication. Attitude is here. Trust is somewhere here. And then we have intention. So we can connect these variables.
Prof, continue record tak?
Okay. Oh, pula nasib baik. Dr. Yus sana. Okay, so we are labeling the variables. So once you're ready, please let me know that we can run the analysis. Okay, reflective, formative, I think you can look at a paper one of my PhD students wrote, in the folder called Ramaya PLS article. Okay, Ramaya PLS article, formative. Yeah, this one. Number 16. Number 16. Okay. And number 10. Number 10 and number 16, they actually, this is formative, I think. This is the one, second order reflective formative. Number 16. So you can see an example here. But in this paper, we didn't do redundancy analysis. So this is the second order, which is formative. So here is the second order. They actually reflective formative. Okay? So you can see the reporting is like this. Okay. So, right? So, this is reflective formative. For reflective formative, we have another test called redundancy, which was not done by the PhD student. This is a paper he wrote. He's part of his study many years ago. So we don't have redundancy analysis for this. But you can refer to, I think, there's a paper by Sasted under the reference article. This paper by Sasted, he talks about redundancy. I think, let me show you. Sasted. Okay, this paper 2019 by Sasted et al. On, where is the paper? Sasted et al. Let me see, AGM. Okay, this paper, 342, you can control F and look for redundancy. Yeah. So, right? Okay, you can look at this analysis called redundancy analysis. Since this variable. They have a variable called a formative variable. So they suggest to do this one, right? See here, the arrow going in. This is reflective formative, right? Okay, reflective formative. So they suggest to do redundancy analysis. So this is also a good paper for you to look at. Redundancy analysis is compulsory, actually. This is a paper on second order, and they actually run running a redundancy analysis here. But what they argue is you don't have to cut off at 0.7. So the relationship, the coefficient don't have to be 0.7. It can be anything less than that, but the relationship must be significant. So that's for formative, second order reflective formative. Okay, so this is the model that we have drawn. We have two independent variables, one mediator and one dependent. So in some institution, they also like to draw this, right? Okay, this arrow and this arrow, which I don't do. But if you want to do, you can also do the direct arrow here. But I will remove that. You want to reduce the complexity. This arrow, right? Okay. So this is the model we want to test. Save the model first. So the assessment is still the same. Look at the low loading and then delete them. Clear the low loading first, then only we can test the relationship. So in the first variable, we have a 0.355, which I will delete. 0.355. And in the second variable class, we have one item here, 0.368. So I will also delete this. Rerun the analysis. For attitude, they are all okay. But for intention, we have intention 3, which is 0.200. 0.200. So this also we will delete. Item number 3, intention 3. Okay. And when you run the PLS algorithm, now all the loadings are okay. That's the first stage. Check for your AVE. All the AVEs are good. Okay. Check for CR. all the CR are more than 0.7. So we are okay. So that's it. So that's how you take. And the other thing we will need to assess is your discriminant validity, right? So if you look at your hetero trait, mono trait, we have one number which is 0.897. Okay, attitude and intention in the literature, they are actually highly correlated. So we can consider them to be conceptually similar, attitude and intention. So we will cut off at 0.9. So this is still okay. Okay. So those are the same assessment we do for a direct relationship. We will also do this for your mediation. Okay. So here we have 1 and 2. So hypothesis will be 1, 2, 3, 4 is your mediation, and 5 is your second mediation. Okay. In mediation analysis, we are not so much concerned about the R-square change. We are only looking at the beta, whether the indirect effect of beta, which is beta 1 times B, A1 times B and A2 times B, are they significant? Okay. So to know whether this relationship is significant or not, you can also look at the indirect effect. Now they give you the indirect effect. If you go to your report, if you go to your indirect effect, they have two parts. One is called the total indirect effect. You can also look at the specific indirect effect, which gives you this arrow. Authentication to attitude, attitude to intention, this is your beta coefficient. Trust to attitude, attitude to intention, this is the path coefficient. Whether they are significant or not, we don't know yet. We have to run a procedure called bootstrapping. Okay. So when we run the procedure called bootstrapping, okay, this is where you have an option now. You want to run them at 1 tail or 2 tail, that's an option you make. Okay, but the bootstrapping is still 5,000. The bootstrapping is still 5,000. Okay, once we run the bootstrapping, they will give you the direct relationship between independent and mediator. So this is significant, this is significant, this is significant. But this is not our concern anymore because we want to know the indirect effect. The indirect effect is not shown in the diagram. You will have to go to the report. Okay. If you go to the report, this is your direct, the relationship between your independent and the mediator and the dependent, independent and mediator, the independent and mediator. So we have 3 hypotheses here. They are all significant. The one we are interested in is called the specific indirect effect. Okay, specific indirect effect. Can you click that? And now I will pull this a bit so that you can see. So trust to attitude to intention. The path coefficient is 0.533. Is it significant? Yes, p-value is significant. Attitude, authentication to attitude, attitude to intention is also significant. And if you look at the bias corrected, confidence interval bias corrected, lower limit is positive, upper limit is positive. For the second one also, lower limit is positive, upper limit is also positive. That confirms that the mediation is significant. So to report, you will first report the indirect effect here. This is the indirect effect. And in the confidence interval, you will report the lower limit and the upper limit. That's it. Okay. For mediation so far, we don't have an effect size calculation available. Okay, at the moment. So we will not report effect size. Yeah. Any questions on the interpretation of your mediation analysis and the confidence interval? Any question? So the reporting is this table plus this table. Those are the 2 tables we need. Yeah.
Prof.
Yeah.
Saya masih confused untuk fungsi dari total indirect effect dan total direct effect. Itu fungsinya untuk apa, Prof? Dalam menganalisis hubungan antar kontras.
Ini dulu dia bagi total indirect effect, dia gabungkan. Dulu dia gabungkan, tapi sekarang dia sudah asingkan. Ini sama, specific indirect effect also sama bukan? Nilai dia sama. Dulu dia tak asingkan macam ni ya. So kalau ada dua mediator dia akan gabungkan. Dalam total indirect effect, saya tunjuk sekejap. So katakan kita ada, kita tak ada satu lagi variable lah. Do I have one more variable? Okay. So if we have two mediator, okay. Let me say I change this. Dan kita letak di sini. Di run. Okay. So sini kita boleh tengok the total ini ya, total indirect effect dia bagi total bukan? Siapa dia tadi? Sini ya, dia bagi total lah. Tapi kalau kita tengok the specific ni, dia ada pecahan bukan?
Oh yes.
Okay. Itu beza dia kalau ada dua mediator, tapi yang kita buat ni satu dua independent satu mediator sebab tu nilai dia sama.
Okay.
Okay, itu beza dia. What we are doing now is not like this, right? Kita ada ours is here, so we that's why it's the same value. Total indirect effect and specific indirect effect is the same. So this is how you run your mediation and report them in a table. I think there are some papers available in the folder for you to look at. Yeah.
Prof, can you explain a bit? Because initially, when you show us the model between the A, B, which is indirect effect, you mentioned A times B, and then the C, which is indirect effect. But now you say all this not applicable. You have to use specific indirect effect. How to show the specific indirect effect in the model that you show us?
No, specific indirect effect only the software only, because this separate just now. Okay, let me show you again lah. You didn't see the discussion, Okay, like this, No. Let me see. Okay. So when you have a model like this, if you run your calculate PLS algorithm, in your report you will have a result like this, So if you go to indirect effect, can you see only one?
Yes.
Total indirect effect, okay, one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
If you go to specific indirect effect, you ada berapa?
2.
So in the total one, they combine these together, but when you go to specific, they divide them.
But the authentication is ID, attitude is mediator, and DV.
No. Now I'm showing you a different model. We have two mediators.
2 mediators. Okay, trust also mediators.
So in this kind of situation, when you have two mediators, they take the first mediation plus the second mediation to get the total mediation. Okay. In the second one, specific one, they give you this one and this one separately. That's the difference between the specific and total.
If let's say we only have one mediator, even though specific also one
The both will be the same number lah.
Okay.
Okay, just now we saw, right? When this variable is here, like this, So when you have this variable, the software is written by programmers, They cannot be changing every time lah. So what they set up was like this, When you run here, if you go to your indirect effect, under the total indirect effect, you also have 2, right? Okay. If we go to specific, also same lah.
Okay.
Because there are two, one mediator only. If you have two mediator, then your total indirect effect will be different from specific. Okay. What is that? Imran, your question. What is your question? Cannot understand your question.
Interpretation, just now you mentioned the one, you look at the diagram, you say is significant. Why they didn't mention p-value here? How you know it's significant?
No, the bootstrapping. We had a bootstrapping, remember? Yeah. So okay, here report now. So this is your direct effect. If you click the specific indirect effect, you see here the p-values are significant, right?
Yeah.
And if you see confidence interval bias corrected, lower limit is positive, upper limit is positive. So confirm, there's no zero in between, right? It can be negative, negative. It can be also positive, positive. Both are significant. Negative, positive, not significant. Okay?
So that means our mediation is significant, is consistent with the literature, that's all.
Here the p-value is significant. Now the confidence interval must also say that there's no zero in between. Remember the guideline says it does not straddle a zero, right? Okay, this one. Positive and positive, right? So zero does not straddle the lower and the upper limit. So that's how you determine whether the p-value is supported by the confidence interval. Sometimes your p-values are significant, but the confidence interval is negative and positive. This is more accurate than p-value, your confidence interval.
So if we use this specific indirect effect, no more partial or full.
No more.
Okay, so either significant or non-significant, that's all.
Whether you have mediation or no mediation.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions on mediation? But I will also discuss a bit on. Okay. For mediation, this is a more recent paper written by Arguinis et al. In 2017, which is a really, really good paper and thought-provoking. You might be shocked with this paper. One of the things they raise is, the rest I've already discussed. Number one is requiring a significant relation between IV and DV. This is Barra and Kenny method. So what they argue is, you don't have to find IV to DV significant before you test mediation. Finish. Second, they talk about magnitude of indirect effect is the effect size. Although they say you must look at the magnitude of indirect effect, at the moment we don't have a value for effect size for mediation. Although there's a paper by Lakowitz in 2018, but it's very difficult to achieve their effect size. The numbers are very large, so we will not look at it at the moment. Okay. Number three is testing the direct effect as a condition. This was Barron and Kenny. So you must test the direct effect as a condition, no more. Including a direct effect without conceptual justification. So what they're saying, if you want to include a direct effect, write some literature to support them conceptually. That's number four. Lack of attention to measurement error is this issue of measurement. So when you have three variables, your measurement of the independent variable reliability must be high, 0.8, 0.9. Your reliability for satisfaction must also be high. Reliability for organizational commitment must also be high. That's a requirement for mediation analysis. Okay, that's number 6. And number 5 is the one problematic a bit for our area of research is when we do mediation, we do cross-sectional mediation. Okay, cross-sectional mediation. So this is where many reviewers are now rejecting papers that do mediation with cross-sectional data. I've been doing this all my life. I have no problem until 2018. 2018, one of my PhD students submitted a paper to a journal called Information and Management. And one reviewer accepted the paper. One reviewer suggested to reject the paper because he argued you are doing mediation, but your data is cross-sectional. So I actually downloaded some papers and tried to justify, but we still got rejected from information and management. We submitted after some revision to a journal called Computers and Education. They accepted. Okay, so but there are already many reviewers raising this issue about mediation testing with cross-sectional data. For mediation, you are supposed to have time 1, time 2, time 3. Okay, that's the best method for doing that. This is, yeah.
Means if let's say I'm doing a cross-sectional study, so there's no point for me to go into mediation sections already.
Okay, that is what the literature is telling you. But my discussion with this guy called Marco Sasten, he mentioned that if you want to do mediation, look for a theory that tests for mediation. For example, in marketing, we have a theory called stimulus, organism, response. We also have input, process, output, which is called the system theory. That kind of theories, they already have mediation in the theory. Mediation in the theory. Yeah? So now we can argue we are testing mediation based on the theoretical argument. That is possible. That's what he mentioned to me. Yeah? Other than that, if you do mediation analysis with cross-sectional data, but your theory has only independent, very difficult to defend. Okay, very difficult to defend. Yeah.
I think in medical we are not many theory unless behaviorist psychology.
If you study behavioral, all your theories come from psychology, not from medical.
From psychology, then we have.
Yeah, even in business, we don't have much theory. Yeah? Most of our theories are coming from psychology. Theory of reason action, theory of planned behavior. They are all coming from psychology. Yeah? Most of the theories are developed in psychology.
So, Prof, means mediations, you need to have two different time base, right? Two different timeline, then only you can run the mediation. So maybe like 1 month later or 2 months later, I run again. Correct.
So I already shared that yesterday. The design for mediation, right? Okay. But most of the time it's difficult to do. Not very easy. Not very easy. Yeah.
Is it must be on the same population or can be different
Same person.
Oh, wow.
Same person must answer time 1, time 2, and time 3. Yeah? This is where we will have a problem called mortality. In medical also, they have a term called mortality. People who drop out. You start with first time 1, you have 600, time 2 becomes 200, time 3 becomes 100 only. So the complete one is only 100, right?
Yeah,
that's one of the challenge when you have time cross longitudinal design. Similar with experiment, also the same. You start your experiment with 50 patients, 20, 30 patients may drop out. Finally, you will end up with 20 or 30 patients only. That's what we call as mortality. Okay?
Okay.
So, many people are not very aware of this issue called longitudinal and cross-sectional. People are still very comfortable doing mediation with cross-sectional. Okay, but I'm showing you some of the things happening more recently. This is a paper submitted by my PhD student on the 14th of July. To a journal called Human Performance, and it got rejected. Okay, and the decision is this. Based on a thorough initial review of a manuscript, based on the review, my primary concern is that you attempt to test a directional mediation model solely with same source cross-sectional data. Unfortunately, this limits your ability to test the directional effects hypothesized. Finish. Full stop. Okay. So I'm telling you what is happening in good journal. This is an ISI journal. I thought we can submit and see. But we got rejected, and that's the only line they wrote. So I'm sorry, I cannot be more positive. That's it. Thank you very much. Okay. So I got rejected. So I'm telling you, some of the issues you will find. Maybe when you are doing your PhD, the examiners will not find any issue with this. But when you move to publishing your work, these are some of the things happening. Okay? This is some of the things I'm getting into now with the kind of data we have collected. Unfortunately, this is happening. So for other mediation issues, you can look at this literature. I've given you some literature. We have written editorial in a journal called Journal of Applied Structural Equation Modeling, 2018. Here we have discussed most of the issues I'm discussing today in this one article. All the references are actually available in this paper, Mediation Analysis, Issues and Recommendation. Yeah. Any questions on mediation before we move to the next analysis called moderation? Yeah. Ada soalan, Dr. Yus tak ada? Mau pakai cross sectional kan?
Masih tradisional, Prof.
Ini pun dah lebih kurang lah, tapi bila sambil dekat jurnal itulah soalan cepu mas dia habis. And this is 2021, okay? Just about 2 months back. Okay. No further question on mediation. Okay, so we will move to another analysis that many people also do, called moderation. Moderation. This is also very popular among many PhD students to identify their contribution, right? Okay. This is how it changes. Previously, we had 3 variables in a row, right? 3 variables in a row. Now we have another 3rd variable, but now it is pointed on the arrow. So this is how you conceptualize a moderation analysis. So the moderation analysis is a 3rd variable that changes the original relationship between your independent and dependent variable. That's how moderators are visualized. Okay. When we do moderation analysis, we are trying to test 2 research questions. Who did it work for and when does it work? What is the difference is, the first one is for categorical moderators, gender, marital status, part-time, full-time employment, those kind of variable. We are trying to answer question number 1. When does it work? Question number 2 is when your moderator variable is continuous. Okay, so we can test moderator which is categorical. We can also test moderator which are continuous. When we develop model for a mediation, we want to find independent to dependent consistent. Remember, for mediation. For moderation, you want to show that the independent to dependent variable is not consistent. Then only you argue for a 3rd variable, which is called the conditional variable or contingency variable. Okay. So what we are arguing now is the independent variable and the dependent variable is not working because of the 3rd variable called moderator. We have 2 different segments. One segment, the relationship is strong. Another segment, the relationship is weak. Remember, when we do hypothesis testing, the assumption is the data comes from a homogeneous population. Homogeneous population, the variable will work the same for everybody. But when you introduce a moderator, you are arguing your population is not homogeneous, they are heterogeneous. So this is what we call as observed heterogeneity. Observed heterogeneity. So if you identify the moderator upfront, we call them observed heterogeneity. If you identify the moderator variable through the analysis, we will consider them to be unobserved heterogeneity. So both can be done. For unobserved heterogeneity, now we have techniques like FIMIX and PLS-POS that we can employ to identify how many segments we have. Okay? This is the first situation where we have gender as a moderator. Here we are trying to answer question number 1, whether the relationship is strong for male or female. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is when we have task ability as the moderator. we want to know whether this relationship is stronger when ability is high or low. This also can be done in research. So this paper by Baron Kenny still is a paper we will refer to, and they specifically mention this. A moderator specifies the condition under which a given effect occurs, as well as the condition under which the direction or strength of an effect vary. What is the difference? Is like this. Okay. If you have the relationship between satisfaction and commitment, we have a third variable called perceived organizational support. Perceived organizational support. For those with high perceived organizational support, the relationship is positive. Okay, this one. And for low perceived organizational support, the relationship is negative. So if you don't analyze the third variable called perceived organizational support, the relationship between satisfaction and commitment will be a straight line, correct? They will cut out the effect. Positive and negative, they will cut out the effect. You will find there's no relationship between satisfaction and commitment. When we introduce the moderator, now you see the line changes. Okay, this is what we meant by the changes in the direction of the relationship. Okay, that's what we are trying to do in this model. But most of the time we are doing this. What we will find is the relationship between the independent and dependent variable is stronger for one group, is weaker for another group. So when we have this kind of situation, the relationship will be weaker than what is supposed to be. That is where we start introducing a moderator to make the relationship more consistent. Okay, more consistent. So when we draw the model like this, what will happen is many researchers write hypotheses. The relationship between satisfaction and loyalty will be moderated by image. You don't have to write also, I already know. The drawing already tells me the same. You are not giving me any more information. So you should not be writing like that. No? Satisfaction to loyalty moderated by image. That's not a good hypothesis. Okay? This is actually clearly discussed in this paper by Jeremy Dawson, 2014. This is the question he asked. Should I hypothesize the form of my interaction in advance? Yes. Not only should the existence of an interaction effect be predicted, but also its form. In particular, whether a moderator increases or decreases the association between two other variables should be specified as part of a priori hypothesis. So you have to write whether the relationship is stronger or weaker. So this is where the hypothesis writing for your moderator. The first one is we have three variables, satisfaction, loyalty, and image. So the positive relationship between satisfaction and loyalty will be stronger when image is high. This is directional hypothesis. The positive relationship between satisfaction and loyalty would be stronger for male compared to female. This is also directional hypothesis for categorical variable, gender. Okay? Gender is the moderator. Okay. We can also write directional hypothesis for continuous moderator like this. Here we have BMI. We have exercise and weight loss is the independent and dependent variable. The moderator variable is BMI. Body mass index moderates the relationship between exercise and weight loss, such that for those with low BMI, the effect is negative, and for those with high BMI, the effect is positive. So we have a cross sign, right? This also can be written upfront, but in social science management area, this is the common hypothesis that is written for moderation. Okay, this is how you are supposed to write your moderation. In my school of management, we have been doing this from the 1990s. If you don't write a hypothesis like this, most examiners will not let you pass your proposal defect. That is a good way of writing your hypothesis for moderation. So once you run your analysis, we will look at a plot called the interaction plot. Okay, the interaction plot given in the software will have 3 lines: low, average, and high. Okay, but it's more difficult to interpret. I like to look at this interaction plot with 2 levels, low and high. Here, what we can see is the relationship between satisfaction and loyalty is stronger when image is high. This is what we can conclude from here. So that's why we need this plot. Most good journals will have this interaction plot as a standard operating procedure when it's significant. When it's not significant, forget about this plot. So if you have 2 lines which are parallel, there is no moderation. Parallel lines are not moderation. There must be a difference in the slope. One is steeper, the other one is weaker. So that is what is needed for interaction. So when we run the analysis in Smart PLS, we will run the independent variable and the moderator variable pointed at the dependent variable. And after we finalize the measurement model, we will include the interaction. This interaction, you don't have to do manually. The software will be able to create for you the interaction effect. Okay, that's how the analysis is done. So when we run this analysis, we are interested in this arrow, which is the moderation effect. Okay, so that's how we will test moderation in Smart PLS. This is called the interaction effect. In moderation, we can also do another analysis called multi-group analysis. That is when all the variables in your model behaves differently for male and female or for Malaysia versus UK. That kind of comparison, you will do multi-group analysis. Okay, that's also moderation. Yeah. Any question? So we have, these are some of the literature you can look at. Okay, and the editorial we wrote in 2019. This is a summation of all these papers. So you can also look at this paper, which is moderation analysis, issues and guidelines. Yeah. Any questions on the theoretical part of moderation before we do the hands-on?
Prof, the moderation also must be based on the literature, then only we can put it inside our hypothesis, right?
No. For moderation, you don't have direct literature. You only have indirect literature. If you have direct literature, you are replicating. Ching,
Indirect.
Okay. There are 5 sources of indirect. 5 I tell you. Okay. Number 1 is when you read your journal paper, at the end of the paper, they have limitation and suggestion for future research. Correct? The suggestion is coming from their own analysis, but they have not tested it yet. So you can build upon that, suggestion for future research. Okay. Number 2 is look at other areas of study. You are in business, look at psychology, look at the medical field. Okay, they have used the same moderator as what you want to introduce, but their independent dependent variables are different. That's a second way of identifying the suitable moderator. Okay, the third one is meta-analysis. If you see papers in meta-analysis, they look at relationship between many variables, and they even identify some possible moderators. But they are not going to test. They are only suggesting this variable can also be tested as a moderator in the future. That's where you look at meta-analysis. Number 4 is attend conferences which are like the top in your area. Okay, for example, Academy of Management Journal, International Association of Management for Technology, ECIS, European Conference on Information System. Those kind of conferences, you will meet people who you cite in your literature. For example, if you go to Academy of Management, The president of Academy of Management is the guy I've been citing a lot called Aguinis, the top guy, right? This guy. He's now the president for Academy of Management. So if you go to that conference, you will get to meet this guy you are citing in your literature. And what they will do is they will present papers which are work in progress, WIP, yeah? And they will tell you some of the changes happening in the literature. So we borrow the idea and start to incorporate into the literature. And the final one is run focus group discussion. Focus group discussion. Now, let's say we want to study strategy and performance. You form a focus group with 10 managers. You ask them, I have good performance, I have good strategy, but I don't get performance. Why is that? They will give you some idea. What you do is take this idea, map them into the literature. Okay? So those are the 5 ways you can identify the possible moderators, but you will not have direct literature saying that the independent variable to dependent variable already tested, independent variable to dependent variable with the moderator also tested before. We are only replicating, no contribution. Yeah. Ching, any question?
Compared to the mediation, you need to have direct literature, right?
Yeah.
Mediation.
Mediation also no. Mediation also, if you have all 3 variables tested together, you are also replicating. Correct? Okay.
Oh, okay.
You have independent to dependent. That's one literature, right? Then you have independent to mediator, another literature. Mediator to dependent, third literature. So you have 3 different literature. You put them together in an integrated model. That is your contribution for mediation. For moderation, you are saying independent and dependent variable. According to theory, they are supposed to be significant, but the empirical literature, some find them to be significant, some find them to be not significant. So you are arguing that maybe there's a third variable that is changing the relationship. So how do you identify the third variable? The 5 different situations that I've described. No direct literature. Mediation and moderation, no direct literature. But what I find is in many institutions, we have examiners who are really confused people. They always ask you where is the literature for both. For direct relationship, you will have to have literature. For mediation and moderation, most of the time it is not direct literature, it will be indirect. Okay? It will be indirect. Yeah. Any question? No question. Okay. Dr. Yus, ada soalan? So for moderation, we will look at, yeah, okay. We will look at this example where we have continuous moderator. We have a variable called perceived usefulness. The independent variable perceived usefulness. The dependent variable is intention to use. And the moderator variable is statistical software self-efficacy. Okay, statistical software self-efficacy. So the argument now is the relationship between perceived usefulness and intention. It will be stronger when your statistical software self-efficacy is higher. That's the hypothesis we are going to test. So we will run this independent and moderator directly to dependent first, and we will introduce the interaction effect with the software. So we will start a new project, UMT5, right? So we will go to the software. So we will start a new project. Click the new project, UMT5. And the data file is, yeah, modcon, moderator continuous. So we will attach this file called moderator continuous, modcon. Okay, so we will get this drawing. So I will, PU is your independent variable. Drag and drop, PU. Behavioral intention is your dependent variable. And statistical software self-efficacy is your moderator variable. Huh? Okay, so that is how you draw the two variables. Huh? Okay. And you can run the model and see if you need to delete any item, start deleting the item. Huh? Then I will show you how to create the interaction. SSSE. This is independent. Okay. So those are the three variables we have in the model. Huh? So the first thing you will do is you have to run the algorithm to decide whether your AV is okay, CR is okay, discriminant validity is okay before we introduce the interaction effect. So we will run calculate algorithm, and you find that statistical software self-efficacy 1, item number 1 here. This is 0.251. So we will delete this. 0.251. So we will delete this item and we will rerun. Now the items here are all okay. Here we have 0.388, 0.388, which is lower than 0.5. We will delete this, okay, and then we will rerun. Okay, so that's how you finalize your measurement model. Then we can check the AVE and the CR. We can go to the report. Can you check your AVE, CR? We put up, Okay, construct reliability and validity, all of them are okay. Okay, and if you look at discriminant validity, HTMT, they are okay. Okay, so we pass convergent validity, we also pass discriminant validity. Yeah, then only we are ready to create the interaction effect. Okay, create the interaction effect. Okay, how do you create the interaction effect? Here, you have to click on the dependent variable, right click. This is the same way you create quadratic effect. Yesterday we discussed about non-linear relationship. So if you want to create non-linear relationship, you can click on this variable. Click on this variable. We can add quadratic effect. Add quadratic effect, and that's for non-linear relationship. What we want to do now is the add moderating effect. Can you click the add moderating effect? Okay. Once you click the add moderating effect, they will ask you several questions. First, what is your moderator variable? Okay, what is your moderator variable? So our moderator variable is statistical software self-efficacy. That's the first one. What is your independent variable? Your independent variable is PU. So if you have 4 independent variable, 1 moderator, you have to do this 4 times. Independent 1 and moderator, independent 2 and moderator, independent 3 and moderator, and then independent 4 and moderator. Here we have only 1 independent, 1 moderator. That's why it's only 1. Okay, for calculation method, we have 3, which is product indicator, 2-stage, and orthogonalization. This product indicator was suggested in the book by Hare in 2014. 2017, they said you should not be using product indicator. Forget about it. We have only 2 choices now, either to do 2-stage or orthogonalization. The suggestion is to use orthogonalization first. If they are not significant, consider the 2-stage. Okay? If it's significant, then you report. Orthogonalization first before we test the 2-stage. Okay? Then click OK. Once you click OK, you will get an interaction effect here, which is moderating effect. How was it created? You can point your mouse here. They tell you which is the independent, dependent, and moderator. And they also tell you how you created the interaction effect, which is calculation method, right? Orthogonalization, we did orthogonalization, okay, and we did standardized product term. Okay, that's already given. So I normally like to do this. Right click, rename. We interacted the independent variable, which is PU, correct, times SSSE. Why I like to do this is in the output, this is the name that will be displayed. So senang nak nampak lah. You know what variable you interacted, right? Okay. That is the reason I do this normally. So we now have the interaction effect between PU and SSSE, right? This is the one. Okay. So we will run a procedure called bootstrapping to see whether this arrow is significant or not. If this arrow is not significant, habislah, no moderation. Okay. So calculate first, bootstrapping, and we will put 5,000 and one tail. 5,000 and one tail for moderation. And click start calculation. Okay. Did you get the result yet? You sudah dapat lah? Belum lagi. Okay. Some of you already got. Dia lambat sikit lah. Okay, so my result shows. Okay, my result shows a value of 3.260. Okay, 3.260. These are t values. So the t value is greater than 1.645. The conclusion is the interaction effect or the moderation effect is significant. Okay. If you want to see the text output, we go to report. You can pull this again. Remember. Okay, this is the interaction effect that we are testing. Is significant. If you click the bias corrected and pull this a bit, okay, the lower limit and the upper limit, there's no zero. Correct? Okay. So that confirms our moderation to be significant. This moderation. So we have another step we need to do called the interaction plot. Okay, the interaction plot. So the interaction plot is actually given in the algorithm. So can you run the algorithm? Just run the algorithm. Okay, when you run the algorithm, under the report, you will have what we call as simple slope analysis. Simple slope analysis. So if you click the simple slope analysis, you will get this, right? There are three lines. In the middle is average and the mean value in the middle. So this line, which is this one, +1 means high, -1 is low. Okay, +1 high, -1 low. So we see here, this is +1, right? Okay, the relationship is stronger here and it's weaker here. Correct? That's how you interpret this plot. But this plot, when you copy and paste like this, click the chart and then OK. If you go to your Microsoft Word and paste, you see the drawing is not very sharp. Okay, like this. tak cantik, ya. Okay. So I will show you how to draw the Excel plot, which will be much more sharper. So this is the result you get from your Smart PLS. So I will show you how to plot them in Excel. So these are the values you need. 0.393. So I will write down on the board. This is your independent variable. Independent variable, which is PU 0.93. Times 0.288. Those are the three numbers we got from the algorithm. Why I wrote them down is because, yeah.
I have a question. Why now you didn't use a bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping, we ran bootstrapping already. Just now we ran bootstrapping already, yeah?
Okay, and then now in this result, this is the PLS algorithm, not...
Yeah, because you want to see the plot, no? Remember?
Oh, okay, okay.
The plot is given in algorithm, not in bootstrapping. This one.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And for the Excel template, we need to have these numbers. So that's why I wrote them down on the board. The numbers that we need to key in. So in the folder just now, the Excel template, if we go to the folder called September PLS Basic, Excel template, here we have two templates. One for categorical moderator, the other one is for continuous moderator. So in this example, we have a moderator which is continuous. So you open this Excel template. Okay. We will make it bigger so that you can see the plot now. Okay, here. Okay, this is the template which I downloaded from Daniel Soper. So the first thing you will do is label the axis. Label the axis. So the independent variable is PU. So I label PU. My moderator variable is SSSE. Once you label here, you see here, low PU, high PU. Low SSSE, high SSSE. Here we have a dependent variable, right? Just double click on the dependent variable and put intention. So now what we have done is we have labeled all the axes, the y-axis, the x-axis, and also the moderator. Okay? The moderator is represented by the line. Okay. Here is where we key in the number, the three numbers we got from the algorithm. So the first one is 0.393. Second one is 0.045. And the third one is 0.288. Okay. Do you see the line? That's how you plot the interaction. So if you copy this, okay, right click, copy, and paste it in your Word file, you can see the comparison side by side, right? Between the original, which is this one, and the one we plotted. Okay. So this is the plot that you see in many papers, correct? For moderation. So we can interpret that already labeled clearly. Yeah. So we have the solid line is low statistical software self-efficacy, and the dotted line is the high statistical software self-efficacy. Okay, that will give you your plot. Okay, so we will use this to justify the hypothesis. Yeah. That's how you interpret for moderation. Yeah. Any question on interpretation? Dr. Yus, ada soalan?
Okay, Prof. Dekat ni.
Anybody has a question on the moderation?
Prof?
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. Just want If let's say we have three independent variable and let's say we have two moderators in our framework, that means we have to run 6 analyses separately. Am I right?
You run with the first moderator. The interaction you run with the first moderator, 3 interaction, right?
Yes. Okay.
And then you remove the 3 interaction and run with the second moderator, 3 interaction.
Oh, I see. Okay, noted. Thanks, Prof.
Don't run with all 6 together because the interaction will also have an effect.
I see. But Prof, how about the interactions plot? Should the interactions plot for the independent variable should, that means I should have 6 interaction plot, is it? If that is the case.
If they are all significant. If they are not significant, no need for plot.
Oh, okay. Only included those which have moderating effect lah.
When it's significant, then you look you plot. If they are not significant, you conclude no moderation, right? No need plot.
Yes. Okay, sure. Thanks.
Prof, this moderation can run in cross-sectional study?
Yes. Because your independent variable and your moderator variable must be at the same time before they can interact. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Independent and moderator, they must interact. To interact, they must happen at the same time. It cannot be time 1, time 2, right? If time 1, time 2, they cannot interact.
Prof, for single moderator.
Single moderator means?
For single moderator with more than one internal variable. Is it possible to run in one test?
Tak. You punya maksud dia apa?
Kalau I ada 2 ataupun 3 IV kan, and I have one moderator.
You have to run sekali lah.
Boleh run sekali tak?
Sepatutnya run sekali. Sebab dia all the independent variables are moderated, right?
Okay.
Sekali, bukan asing-asing lah.
Okay, thanks.
Prof, I just want to ask, if let's say we cannot find indirect literature, that means we don't need to test for the moderation lah. In other words.
No, moderation, you have to start from the beginning. There's a story, saying that the dependent variable is not consistent. So we want to identify a moderator. Then only you look for the moderator and hypothesize. So the discussion in your literature points to inconsistency between your independent and dependent. Then you look for moderator. If your independent to dependent is consistent, you are trying to look for a mediator.
Oh.
Okay. That's why we spend 1 year looking at the literature.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the rest, any other questions on what we have done so far? So we have done direct relationship, we have done second order, we have done mediation and moderation. Those are the common analysis many researchers use. But we also have other analysis where we have formative measurement, multi-group analysis, which is normally covered in a more intermediate level analysis. So I've covered most of the analysis and you have most of the materials, how to report and how to interpret those analyses. So if you have any other question, you can post them so that I can answer, or else we will stop here for today.
Prof, final question.
Yeah.
If let's you did mention usually we prefer multiple items for the dependent variable or the endogenous factor.
Dependent variable.
Dependent variable. Because I'm thinking, for example, in medical like blood pressure, we want to look for.
Then you are single item lah, Ching.
Yes, single.
Blood pressure is using an instrument, so they have a score, right? Score will be single item.
Because I seldom see the literature or manuscript on the, SEM on this single item in medical field. I'm just thinking, besides psychology, is there any role of SEM in this type of study?
No, as long as you have like mediation or moderation, then this kind of analysis will work lah. And in medical field, they also use a lot of this structural equation modeling. I've also written a couple of papers lah. But those are people who study behavior.
Okay.
Not the like. But they can also have a dependent variable like blood pressure. What influences blood pressure? You have anxiety. We can measure anxiety with multiple items also, right?
Yes.
So that kind of situation also can, but the dependent variable is actually the blood pressure or any other
Single item, yeah.
A single item, but they are measured using an instrument. They're actually continuous variable, huh?
Yes, continuous.
Then it's okay, huh? That can be single item, huh? In that kind of situation, huh? But we can also have multiple item measuring a construct also if they are behavioral studies, right? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Prof.
Yeah.
Let's say I have my data is a combination of cross sections and time series, where I have a panel. So, is there any article literature that I can refer? For example, literature on the PLS that I can refer to?
I think there's an e-book on banking. I'm not sure whether I have it here. They use a lot of this kind of data lah. I'm not sure whether I have.
I know, yeah.
Kiran, yeah, this one, number 258, right?
Okay, thank you.
That's a book by Springer. That should have. Let me see where's the 250. Kiran, right? This one, this is the book, they do in banking and finance. I'm not actually look at it lah. This is no. This is all about yeah. They have lah bank soundness. You can look at it lah. I'm not very sure about the secondary data, but this is one of the book that I've seen on banking and finance, but using PLSM.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Of the courses in October is an intermediate one, is it?
Next week, I have one intermediate, which is where you have multiple mediator, multiple moderator, formative measurement, multi-group analysis, those kind of analysis lah. The extended one for the same analysis.
The in somewhere October, that one is not intermediate.
No, that one is basic.
Oh, it's redundant, nah.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I have to check lah. Because that is organized by another. Because I'm adjunct in Sunway, so they use me lah. Okay, so I have to do that lah. So I have to wait for the coordinator to tell me what is the content they are going to cover. I think it should be intermediate also, not
intermediate will be good.
You can check with the coordinator. I think Dr. Jolene is the coordinator, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Every 2 months they will force me to do something lah. That's the arrangement they have. Sometimes I also do some talk for their PhD student. They have only 3 or 4 PhD students, but I still have to give a 3-hour talk to that. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to the screen only. No question asked and so on. But since I'm the adjunct professor there, those are some of my roles lah. So this is the one they are doing for. I think they did one for SPSS. I think last month. Next 2 months I have on Smart PLS, and then it will be next year. the other workshop. Yeah. Any other questions? I think there are some other universities also talking to me. I'm also visiting professor in UKM. I think last week I had a workshop on SPSS one day, then 30th I have another day with them. That also is part of the arrangement.
Ada satu soalan daripada Dr. Moni, Prof.
Ya, apa dia?
In chat box.
Apa dia? Kena scroll sikit sebab ada orang.
In case kita test H as moderator between 4 IV and 1 DV and results show no moderation at all, is it good?
Dia punya problem bukan good ke bad tapi kena explain lah. Kenapa H did not moderate? One of the reason is actually given in the paper by Agrinis. Problem dia macam ni when your age tu you collect data, most of them same age group. Ada tak? Morning, mana siapa dia? The age group tu kan dia 25 sampai 30. So dia actually very little spread. Very little spread kan. So when you have that kind of situation, moderation will not work. Dia kena ada orang yang sangat muda, orang yang sangat tua. Spread dia lebih besar. Baru dia akan significant. That's one of the reason lah. I think in the slides I have this. Dia panggil range restriction. This one. Nombor 2 ni. Macam accounting tu dia study top 100 companies. Kalau you study top 100 companies, it's not the full range bukan? Only the good companies you are studying. Then moderation will not work. Okay? Betul. So kena tengok dia punya distribution of the age, Moni. So I'm not sure what was that. Somebody else asked something like Nurul kah? Ada lagi soalan?
So far, no question in the chat box. Maybe Nurul boleh tanya. You have any question?
Prof, I saw the somewhere advertisement. The one is formative, reflective, more like a bit like basic again.
Intermediate lah.
So, yeah, for your intermediate workshop, can we have the form or this thing? Maybe we can attend.
What is that? Can I
Do you
hear?
have the registration form for the intermediate course?
The intermediate one is by Sunway, so you have to register with that.
No, Sunway the one is basic. I just check.
Oh, basic. Oh, okay. So, I will send you the poster lah. The one by Boffin, not me.
Okay. Oh, we want to attend your course.
Yeah, but it's organized by another person. So I will send you the poster. They have another group who is doing that. So I will send you the poster lah.
Next week, Prof?
Yeah, next week.
Okay, for those who are interested to attend intermediate as well, can contact Prof lah for next week.
That one will be more hands-on. Okay.
Question from Sari Awang.
IVD, 1 DV, 1 mediator, one of my direct. Okay. Tadi saya dah explain. IV to DV not significant, doesn't matter. We are more interested in the indirect effect. Remember indirect effect? Sarima, you are still 60-70-an kot. Masih lagi yang independent to dependent want to be significant before ada mediation. Tak perlu. I already given you all the citation kan. As long as your indirect effect significant, you have mediation. Kalau tidak, you don't have mediation. Okay? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Yus, for organizing the workshop, and thank you for staying with me for 2 days. I think hopefully you have learned something. I think some of you are already overloaded, no? But this is only basic. No? You have to try it on your own. And then if you have any other question, you can join the Facebook group MySam. Most of the time, many of the discussions are taking place there. Okay. Till then, till we meet again, thank you very much, Dr. Yus.
Okay, once again, thank you very much, Prof, for your time, and then you sacrifice your weekend, and then hopefully we can have you in the future. And then for all participants, feel free to fill in the Google form for e-certificate purposes. Okay, with that, I hope you do not share all the materials and also the link, whereas and as best as to others. Okay, take care and stay safe. Thank you so much again. Semua jumpa
Nanti
lagi.
recording, the recording
Thank you, Prof.
when
Terima
I
kasih,
get the
Prof.
recording, I share with you lah, Dr. Yus.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you,
Okay,
Prof.
for recording as well, that one is cannot be shared too, okay? So itu pesanan daripada kami. Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
Okay, thank you. See you.
See you,
Thank you,
take
Prof.
care. Jumpa lagi, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Thanks, Prof.
Thanks. Okay, time to look for.
Wassalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Jangan lupa isikan Google Form ya.
Baik, Prof.
Sudah, Prof.
Thank you.
Sudah.
Welcome, Prof.
Dilaksanakan, Prof.